Yeah. All right, so call the meeting to order. It's 7:04 on the 21st of October for the Bristol Planning Commission. And first item would be any additions, removals, the agenda.
Just a note that my Roman numerals are a little bit off, but it doesn't really.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to public comment. Any comment this evening?
We just have interest in the zoning area of Briggs Hill Road, Bristol, so that's why we're here.
Yeah. All right, well, we will move into our new business then, which is a discussion of some of the zoning districts.
If I can share my screen. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. My computer's down there. Oh, I got it. I just don't know if my computer's got it. All right. Ooh. All right. So, Bristol zoning districts, let's talk about them. Mostly want to focus on the commercial district and Briggs Hill Road area, and then also the zoning districts up on Hardscrabble near Broadview Estates and Thomas Drive. If it'll work. Ooh, too far. All right, these got a little jumbled up, but we'll start here with looking back. This is from the 2000 zoning districts, so black and white, no color. It's from the 1999 zoning regulations, and it looks very similar to what we have today. You'll notice here that there's a the black is the commercial district. There is a smaller black area as well. That's the neighborhood commercial district that became the downtown center. So this is back in 2000. And then my slides got all mixed up. What do we have here? These are our current zoning districts. What we currently have. And then looking back, this is on the left is the 2017 regulations, and on the right is the 2006 zoning districts. And not much changes throughout the years. We have about over a 10-year gap. And there's we have a bigger village planning area. Some of the up near Hardscrabble, we still have the same zoning district for, oh, I don't actually have a little pointy. Let me get a little pointy. A little laser pointer. Up here is the RA2 district. That is very faint. Can't quite tell that's there. But no big changes throughout time, other than there used to be a residential commercial district right here that got made into just commercial in between 2006 and 2017. Just a closer look at the downtown areas here. Look very similar. We have the village mixed and the residential commercial. A municipal zoning district was made in 2006 and then was turned into village mix, and we see that with the residential commercial here was turned to village mix in 2017. And we see that residential commercial also gets turned to commercial in 2017. And then just jumping back to what we currently have, it hasn't much changed since 2000 when the first districts came in. We have, of course, more detail here with clearly defined conservation districts. We have our flood hazard overlay now. We have the downtown design overlay. Um, but and more conservation over at the watershed center. But overall, things have mostly stayed the same, some minor adjustments throughout the years. And for the commercial district especially, this is taken from those 1998 regulations. It is what the hopes were for that district. And looking at what is in our current regulations, it is this exact same sentence, except they added that they didn't want any retail businesses that would compete with the downtown to be in the commercial district. But other than that, it is essentially the same goals, has been for over 20 years. But if we really look at this district and ask what has been built here, if we want light class industrial, it actually turns out that we had all earth renewables up in the village mix district, and that is a light class industrial business right near our village district. We have Livingston Farm Products here. Craig Brown has his business here. Acker has his business here. The town garage, one day maybe, is thought to go here. A. Johnson Land has been commercial, still is commercial, and CDL here. There are residences here, along Hewitt Road here, tucked in here, and a multifamily unit here. Residential here, all along here, with the storage units, and then this property is the capped landfill. So land that can't be developed for anything, and the gravel pit here and cemetery. So looking at this district, if it's an area that we want for industry and commercial growth, it's pretty mixed use already, and it has stayed mixed use for the whole 20 years. And even when when the town brought in a business park, it ended up in the village mixed district, not even in the commercial district. Just my observations here. Moving on to the Briggs Hill area. This was RA5 in 2017. And it got moved to conservation, just this area south of Briggs Hill here. In my conversations with Chris and Kevin, it seemed like this was changed to make up conserved area elsewhere, or to not lose a certain amount. I'm still a little unsure as to what prompted this change, considering the uses here are mainly residential, and only one lot in this area is now conforming. The other 7+ lots have all been made non-conforming, which means that the landowners there aren't able to fully develop to the fullest potential as of RA5 in that district.
I mean, the plots are less than 5 acres. Is that the reason?
No, they're less than 25 acres, which is
Oh,
the
that's
lot
why
minimum
it's
for
okay.
conservation.
Okay.
So they were conforming when they were RA5, but
Yeah.
once moved to conservation, only this lot here, this large lot, which is just over 30, is conforming. All the
When was the change made, configuration from RA5?
2020, in between the
And
2017.
there's no documentation on that?
I've been looking back through minutes, and it seems like the consensus was to make up a loss of conservation somewhere else, or to the reasoning I'm still unsure of, and that's kind of why I'm coming to the planning commission of like, what is your
I was gonna ask about that, if you found minutes or documentation of it, because I don't remember that conversation.
Yeah. I'll keep on looking through what I can find on the minutes, but
Is it something the select board would have done and approved?
they could have made an
Who had the authority to change a zoning district? Who has the authority to change a zoning district?
the select board at the end of the day, but the planning commission is the one who brings recommendations to the select board.
Mhm.
And that is your role, is to say, hey, these are the zoning districts as we have planned them. If you have any feedback, the select board can of course say, no, we want them to
Right.
be this way. So it could have been the select board. I haven't found,
There's no evidence or
Hmm.
paper trail to suggest.
not that I found yet.
I was gonna ask about minutes or documentation as well, because we have found in the past of errors.
Yeah,
Innocently enough, but
yeah,
accidents happen,
yeah.
not that it's good, but.
Yeah. So that's, I wanted to bring that up tonight just because it's something that, and looking at development and also, another actually speaking of errors, this is it's a little faint, but
Yeah,
this is the, hardscrabble, area that is RA2. And, since I started this position almost a year and a half ago, it's always been very interesting to me that the Broadview Estates development gets slashed into two different districts, even though it's all one. And I know that happens throughout, but it also is strange to me that this curve here goes right along with Hardscrabble Road. So
well, some of the districts were worded to be X feet from a road, sometimes it's 500 feet from a road, or 200 feet, or 100. So if that was the intent with that. Did you find anything prior to the first plan that you showed us for zoning?
that's the only zoning district that I'm able to find. All the other zoning regulation do not have maps, and I am struggling to find any copy of anything past 2000.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's been that way, and I know this development didn't happen prior to the development of this RA2, so it could have been that it was slashed anyways, just when they were developing.
That's why I was asking, because
Yeah.
that is circa 94.
Yeah.
The range. For the Broadview
Yeah,
development, so if it would have been there before, it was just following. Parcels,
Yeah.
what it looks like to me, and then, the bottom of the hill on the east side.
yeah.
So,
It's just it's an area that if we're in thinking about zoning districts, of half the homes in Broadview Estate are RA5, while the rest are RA2. So RA2 has a little bit less of dimensional standards, and it just seems odd to have these few homes while everyone else in their development has a different right. But I understand that's how zoning districts are. They are not always perfect, but just something I've always looked at of like, was this intentional, or was it just
or was it after the fact, was
Yeah.
it done in 96, after that was in place?
Yes.
Through Act 250.
Yeah, so that was just something I wanted to bring up as well. And a big reason why I'm bringing up this conversation of zoning districts is housing. Housing is the name of the game. And a big part of this is the housing targets that were released as part of the 2025 Vermont Housing Needs Assessment. And this was a statewide assessment at what housing units are needed to meet the needs of the state for the future. Bristol is the second biggest town in terms of housing targets and existing units. So looking at these targets, by 2030, Bristol is shooting for an additional 192 units. And then by 2050, an additional 715 units. this is from the state needs assessment. It is not a mandate. They cannot enforce, the state can't say, oh, you didn't meet those targets, therefore you're in trouble. But it is mandated that we put these housing targets into our town plan and have an action plan on how we're going to try to reach those targets. That is now mandated to be part of our town plan. So these are definitely big numbers. 715 units by 2050. I did the math. In the past 5 years, we've added around 70 units of housing in the past 5 years. So it's a big.
Which includes the firehouse apartments.
So it's a big jump. And again, I want to stress that the state is not saying that you have to do these targets. They're saying that we have to make a plan to work towards them and include it in our town plan. And then I just looking at the housing type in Bristol, we have mostly single family homes, as we know, and single family homes are great, but takes up a lot of room to have a single family home. And if we want to meet these targets, thinking of alternative housing types, definitely something we want to encourage. Not saying we need to get rid of the single family home forever, but diversifying the housing type a little bit more would be helpful. And then lastly, just have the smart growth principles from the state of Vermont. And thinking about the smart growth principles and our zoning districts of how do we want to plan them out? How do we want to encourage development? And that leads me to my last question, which is for the planning commission of where do we want development and where don't we want development? And it's the commercial district has been the area where we don't want development, at least housing development, for 20 years. But in those 20 years, there hasn't been much commercial development either, other than the businesses that have been there for a long time. Livingston, Craig Brown, Acres, maybe the newest one. But that's the question I have of where do we want development to be and what do we want it to look like? It's very short in the presentation. There weren't as many people as I thought.
Should we talk about Briggs Hill first, since we have people
Yeah.
interested?
Yeah.
Like to know what they're interested in and what's going on.
I think so.
Well, maybe.
So with the Briggs Hill, I think we just need to do some bird dogging and try to chase that out. And
Yeah.
confirm it's not an error.
Yep.
No,
Because I don't remember anything
Yeah.
in those conversations
About Briggs Hill.
about Briggs Hill and changing that.
And it was changed when? In 20?
Yeah. In between 2023.
When did we lose the road? Oh, so it was before the road fell into the other road.
Well, the topography of that, at least the part of the area I'm familiar with, was quite steep. And then where those maybe 5 acre units are, plots are. What's the ground like there? I don't know. Flat and just north of.
It's fairly flat,
Yeah.
with the 5 acres were subdivided.
Yeah. It's this is like where the topography is the
Yeah,
most.
the dark, yeah.
Yeah, down here.
Yeah.
And then it flattens out here. There's a little bit of a switchback around here, but it's relatively, this especially clearly is very flat, these agricultural fields.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I can remember that.
What are the blue lines?
The blue lines are water. So streams, either intermittent or perennial.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, that answers my biggest question of what was the rationale between moving this and if it.
Yeah, we'd have to go back through,
Yeah.
find the meetings.
I can continue my deep search.
Hmm.
The
If you
record.
don't find something, you don't find something, although I think most of the select board members were select board members back then. I
Yeah.
think there may be one, maybe
He's
two.
not good. Oh.
Can I ask a question about some of the data?
Yeah.
I'm just was looking at it earlier, and I'm super curious why Hancock isn't included in the Addison County housing data.
Maybe lift it up a little, it might be
Oh.
below Cornwall.
Oh, I can't. I
And
can't
the
do that.
Cornwall Leicester, if you look on the left. Down ripped in.
Yeah, below Cornwall, there's some towns.
There are like a couple more little ones below Ripton that aren't included on these. These are screenshots of the graphs.
Okay, I looked through the flyers too.
Oh.
I don't know. I was just curious if it was somehow otherwise designated or just too small to count.
I'm not sure. I don't know about Hancock.
Okay.
I know about Bristol.
I know. I'm just was curious.
Yeah.
What's the other one that's over on the other side of the mountain? Hancock and,
Rochester.
no, that's not in our town.
It's too far, yeah.
There's another one that's north of Hancock, I think.
There is like a very
Granville.
There you go.
And Granville isn't there either. And maybe because that while they're in Addison County, their geography suggests Washington County or wherever the heck it is over there. I don't know.
yeah,
It's possible. Plus the populations there are very small.
yeah. I think the smallest town on these housing targets has to add 8 units in the next 30 years or 25.
But that's what they're hoping.
Yeah, again, yes. The goal they're hoping.
Yeah.
I find this interesting and I wouldn't pay it any attention personally. If you have to go on housing needs and where housing has been traditional, it's where jobs are. Like I
True.
said before, Middlebury should be twice or 3 times that number, considering the amount of jobs that they have.
You know,
Bristol is a, what do you call it, community?
Bedroom.
Bedroom community.
We've got jobs here, but not that many, and we have more than enough housing. We are a plus when it comes to housing for the jobs that are here. And a lot of that has to do with the homes that were built when we had more industry, 70, 90 years ago versus what we have today. So I'd love to see things happen a little more organically in that regard. And of course, with transportation, with automobiles, it's nothing for someone, especially if they have some means, to live in Bristol and live and work in Williston. Whereas that wasn't feasible in 1950, or at least not very feasible.
yeah.
So things have changed certainly significantly, but to take town's population in Addison County and then attach numbers to it based on population, which is, I'm sure, I mean, the first 4 are their exact order of the size of towns in the county. That's way simple and doesn't take into consideration developable land and non-developable land, et cetera, et cetera. So good luck. Plus, they when they did this, population of Vermont's actually gone down the last 2 years. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in the future. So going even 25 years from now is a leap, because unless things change, our population may stay pretty static for the next 25 years. And who knows how much we will need. So those are some of my comments relative to this stuff.
Yeah, I would have a lot of comments, also additional various factors nationally that might impact the capacity for us to reach these goals. But as I was reading through the data today, the other thing that really stood out to me is that 15% of the homes in Vermont, or units, are temporary or seasonal. And it got me to thinking about ADUs, and I don't recall, and I'm definitely willing to be wrong, is there any stipulation that an ADU needs to be full-time year-round housing?
The owner needs to occupy either the single family home or the ADU.
But other than that,
Well,
no.
right, but I could build an ADU,
Yeah.
but have it be an Airbnb,
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
live in a single family home.
right? So that wouldn't count toward
That
this.
goes to, I mean, that can open up a conversation on should Bristol enact short-term rental regulations if you don't want people having Airbnbs in their ADUs, but I don't really want to necessarily open that can of worms tonight, so I'm just gonna say we could talk about it. But
Nope,
yes,
Just a point.
yeah.
Mm,
We have
Yeah.
Herb here.
Hello,
Alright.
good people.
Hello.
Is there any other discussion on the districts at this point, or?
No, I mostly
Yes,
just wanted to bring it up as a kind of a jumping off point of
Oh, I didn't hear anything from our folks here about Briggs Hill. I mean, if you give us,
Yes, so we're homeowners up on Briggs Hill Road.
yeah,
And when we bought the property, it was 5.05 acres.
Yep.
And then it got changed to 25 zoning, 25 acres.
Oh, wow.
zoning, which made it not compliable with Bristol zoning. So yeah, we were in talks with AZ about subdividing my property, even though I only own 5 acres. We were under the impression that it would fall under the 2-acre zoning,
Yeah.
which it does not. So that's why we're here, is I have a mobile home on half the property. I have LaRose Surveys drew me up a map to subdivide my property. I have 2 separate wells, drilled wells, 2 separate legal septic systems. So I was looking to subdivide, and then I was
sure.
told, no, it's 25 acres. So I was told because I was non-compliant. And I'm non-compliant because I do have some rental properties on there now too, which the town allowed me to do. The state is legalized everything. So I'm just trying to get some kind of clarification. Whether at some point I could be compliant by subdividing the property, or whether I'm just gonna be not compliant. It's a financial gain for me
sure.
if we can change the zoning, and if we can't change the zoning, then things will stay the way it is. Yeah. I do know there is one farm on Briggs Hill Road, and through rumors, talking to different family members, there has been some discussion about at some point in the future subdividing the farmland between some of the family members. So I think it's a big conversation on if it gets rezoned, how many acres. Because if you do 1 or 2 acres, it may be additional 10 houses in the farmland that looks like it's suitable to be built on, flat land. But if you go 5 acres, obviously there would be less. So that's another concern of mine is, how many new neighbors might I have in the future, or, if it stays 25, then I'm not gonna have to worry about that too much.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear ya. Yeah, that's kind of a tough deal. If you bought it at 5, it turns into 25 all of a sudden.
Right.
And you're not allowed to use your property as you thought you could.
Right. But again, the town did allow me to do some things, some rental things, and that makes me more non-compliant than what I was after they changed it 25 acres, so, I'm just trying to. Yeah.
You wanna know?
Yeah.
Sure. Very
Figure it
good.
out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Alright, so we'll close portion A and move into portion B with her.
Yeah. Herb, you're up. Hello.
There we go. I find it astounding. So I'm taking a hiking trip with my sister and a high school friend. His birthday. I'm in Utah, and I got 2 bars on my cell phone, and I'm just incredulous that I'm actually able to zoom in with you guys. So I don't know how you want to structure this. I basically, I think, reached out and said, geez, I'd like to talk to you guys. My main goal is to try to understand what are you guys interested in? What would you like to see happen in Montpelier? I'm your legislator. I'm one of your legislators over there. I'm really locked into issues around housing. At least in terms of trying to identify things that are going on the state level that impede people trying to build a house. When I was campaigning, just story after story, especially with young families and stuff, just trying to get some way to get a home house built around in our area in Vermont entirely, and just having a real tough time and thinking about moving out of state. And I think we all know those kind of stories. So I have some ideas, but mainly I'd like to hear from you folks about, what are the issues in terms of what kind of, what are the issues in state level issues that you'd like to see, looked at, I guess. What would you like to see happen in Montpelier? And again, I'm focusing mainly on housing, but I suppose other things too. But you guys are the planning commission.
Yeah, so. Does anybody have anything they'd like to jump in with? I'll open it up. I don't think there's really any.
I would say, if I had to jump in without giving it a ton of thought, Herb, how are you?
Hi.
It's Fred Blazer.
Hey, Fred.
I would say the legislature, because they have direct control over this, might look at the property tax system, which they have, but we
Yeah.
really haven't seen anything come from that, because
Yeah.
it does have an impact on housing, especially the fact that the taxes year to year to year to year.
Yeah.
People on lower incomes get some relief, but there's still issues there. And so that's something that there could be a benefit to, is reducing the reliance on the value of one's home and property, homes in particular, would help reduce the year-to-year costs for many people, I think.
Yeah, I hear you, Fred. And it used to be you know this, Fred. So I don't know, maybe going back 5-7 years, the sort of split in terms of the education fund, has different revenue sources. Obviously, property taxes are a big deal part of that. The proportion, I think, if I understand things correctly, the proportion of the education fund paid by property taxes used to be a little less, and different sort of revenues used to be supporting the education part of that. There's, I mean, I hear you, Fed. It's hard to have a house in Vermont. When you look at what we pay in property taxes versus some other states, it's tough. They're gonna have we're gonna have another big year about that, both in terms of how things are governed at school district level, but really I think the big piece of that is going to be what they're going to do with the financing system, and that's kind of up in the air. They got a foundation formula that they're thinking about, but the rubber's going to have to meet the road in terms of how are you going to make that less expensive, right? My own feeling is I mean, I love our schools, but I just wonder at some of those expenses, and I think we need sort of a good look at the expenses, because ultimately I think it's going to be difficult to lower property taxes, Fred, unless we have a good look at the expense side of things too.
Well, you certainly do, but switching some of the money that needs to be generated to another form of state income would be prudent. And
yeah, no, I hear you, Fred. The only thing I've heard floated about that has to do with income tax, and there's a lot of controversy about that too.
There's going to be a controversy on any tax.
Yeah.
The other thing in terms of expenses, and this is some from my experience being in your chair years ago, is that the teachers union is too powerful, and it has your party in their hip pocket. And quite frankly, and if you really want to make a difference in educational costs, you have to get one of this very, well, I think it is the single biggest expense to be players. And I don't know with the current political environment whether that's going to move ahead. But yes, educational costs are right up there and near the top of the nation. The educational results, however they measure them, are okay, but they certainly aren't right up at the top of the nation.
Yeah,
And costs is people. And in Vermont, that's our blessed teachers union, which I have nothing in general against it, but they're not going to do anything that's going to impact teachers negatively at all.
I'd
Period.
like to pop it.
What, Ellen?
I would just like to have a moment to respond to some of that, if that's okay.
Sure.
20-year educator, current clinical social worker. I'm a homeowner. My children are 24 and 28, and they still live at home. The economy is wrecked, and our local system for funding education is definitely broken. But the cost isn't, or the cause isn't the unions. The cause is the exponential healthcare costs. We need the people. We can't do education without the people. Having worked on school budgets for years, it's the healthcare costs that are driving those budgets and expenses. And I don't think anybody in our community would want our teachers to not have good health insurance. So we got to find something completely outside the box. We can't point fingers
They
at
have a Cadillac plan.
Okay.
They have a plan no one else has in the state of Vermont.
All right.
They
Let's circle back into housing.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I get
Thank
it.
you.
We're
Thank you,
getting
'cause
off
the other
track.
side of the argument was, I think, Herb, you made the comment that it's really hard to be a homeowner in the state right now, and I won't disagree, but I do think it's harder as a renter. I also worked in homeless shelters. I mean, getting housing, yeah.
Yeah, no, I kind of misspoke there. I sort of using homeowner sort of in general. Yeah, I mean the same things that are hitting people trying to build a home. It probably as it's an equal problem for renters. I didn't mean to suggest that. And which is why we're in such a bad shape. I mean, the medium home prices are just really, really tough. And there's definitely a segment of of Vermonters that just can't afford that. But at the same time, it's not like we're gonna subsidize our way out of this, right? Somehow we gotta figure out how to, sort of piece it. There's a lot of different factors, but somehow look at the housing costs and why are they this high, and see if we can, take a look at this, take a look at that. One of the things I've been talking to, I'm on the Regional Planning Commission too, heaven forbid. I'm stretched a little thin. It's just in my nature, I'm afraid. And they're talking about some of the little tickle in my throat. Sorry. They want to these folks want to look at some of the current water and wastewater rules. I don't know a whole lot about it, but they're saying, they just don't have to be quite this expensive. So every sort of increment you can have to lower the cost of new housing, I think is are things that we should take a look at.
On that note, there is a lot of costs in just getting through the permitting process to
Right.
not wastewater, but all of it.
Yeah.
Start dealing with the regulators. Sometimes things get drawn out what seems unreasonably long.
Right.
From what I've seen professionally.
Yeah.
The other thing, if I could ask, any new regulations or statutes that are written, if they could be clearer than what was put together for ADUs recently, that was has just been terrible to try to work through and interpret and be handed interpretation. That was just not fully done.
Yeah. Which regs were those?
Related, or which one was it? Was it 47, the
4412.
4412 related to accessory dwelling units?
Right, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about, I've been kicking around this, I'm sorry, I got a tickle on my toe. So the Act 250 for a long time has had this rule that if you're under 10 units, you don't need an Act 250 permit. But if you're over 10 units, 10 years or more, you need a permit. And I think that rule, that threshold was developed years and years, decades ago. So I've been sort of kicking around, why don't we boost that up a little bit? Housing, sort of a critical need. Maybe bump it up to 25 units or something like that. What do you guys think about that?
Didn't Act 181 just put in a bunch of exemptions?
It put in.
They do, but so they have a lot
You're
of
talking about just a
exemptions
blanket?
in the if you're in a tier 1B or something, that
Yeah.
would be like Bristol Village, that kind of thing. But
Yeah, but
outside,
are you saying just like raise the cap for all, even the tier 2 areas to 25?
yeah, well, I'm just kicking it around. I was just wondering what you guys might think. It would. So right now, if you have, say, a unit, a development of some sort for 9 houses, you don't have to have an Act 250 permit, right? And sort of kicking around. Well, maybe that's an older rule. Maybe we could bump that up a little bit. You don't have to answer. I'm just throwing out, for
Raising.
your benefit, the kinds of things that I'm thinking about to try to encourage housing.
Mhm.
And just running it by you.
Raising that limit is probably one, might help with some additional development. And one of the things with everything is cost and scale, so if you're able to do more units as part of one project instead of separate projects, it makes it more economical for development in the long run, but as what that limit and a reasonable threshold of that is, given the Act 250 kind of intent of that is for those larger impact developments.
Right.
More oversight on that because of the larger impact that is. I don't know what that right threshold
Yeah.
would be.
I don't know. And of course, this is just an Act 250 rule. Local planning and zoning would obviously, have its own say on that too, right?
Yeah.
In terms of whether it fits with your plan.
I would like to jump off Rob's request for any statute coming out on housing to be a little bit more thought out, because we have definitely talked about ADUs into the ground. And it would be really interesting to see the state come out with a little bit more guidance other than just saying
Right.
ADUs are for everyone. Everyone has an ADU except for unless you're not a single family home. But the legislation on it currently is confusing at best. Takes a lot to get down to the root of it. And I think they're important. I think that we need them. But
What are the sticking points on that in terms of I'm not that familiar with it.
Yeah.
So what are the points that you think need a little more clarity on that?
So it's pretty open in terms of it lends itself to trying to be interpreted instead of being clear of what's allowed and what's not allowed. And it speaks to a couple things that are allowed, but doesn't speak to other instances of whether it would be allowed or not, which
Okay.
leaves it open for interpretation and doesn't just say it's allowed everywhere. It doesn't even say that. It would be great if it did, because then it would be clear that it's allowed everywhere, so.
All right. Okay. So yeah. So you'd like to take advantage of it, but you're not sure what's what the limitations are. I apologize for this cough.
No,
Yeah,
that's all right.
I think that sums it up. I think it's more of a just wanting clearer language so it's clear how we are supposed to, because it's in 4412, which is prohibited effects. So it's limitations on what we can do in our local bylaws.
Right.
It would be helpful to understand more from the legislator what their intentions were and what they want. Do they want it allowed everywhere? Do they want it
Yeah.
allowed only in certain places? Make it clearer so that
Yeah.
local municipalities that might not even have proper staff can implement what the
Right.
state is wanting effectively.
Good. Those are good points. Maybe along the same vein, there was some legislation past session called Community Housing Infrastructure Program, and it's sort of a tax increment financing program for housing. And the idea would be to find a financing mechanism for the infrastructure that's needed for housing development, whether it's utility lines, maybe wastewater, water, any sort of infrastructure that you need for development, and sort of break it up into an increment. You have the base, what the property's worth now versus what, obviously a higher value once the development's in, and sort of take that piece of it and allow that to be used for the infrastructure. Very much for housing projects that you guys at the local level might actually want. It doesn't happen without, your say so. The agency that has in charge of this is Vermont Economic Progress Council. They just came out with some draft rules. I think I forwarded to AZ, a main page for that. I don't know if that's on your radar screen, but if you have any questions about that, maybe let me know, and maybe I can help clarify things.
That is a good reminder that I did not actually get to forwarding that one link on to the rest of y'all. My apologies. But CHIP is very interesting, and I do hope to bring it into Bristol more. It's essentially a way that the municipality can work with the developer to bring in housing projects where the funding for it goes over many years, and at the end of that the town will own all the infrastructure, but and gets to benefit from what the future tax benefits of that property would be. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, and so ultimately, obviously ultimately the development is going to add, valuation value to your grand list, right? So ultimately, the town will get the full value of being able to tax that. But during this period of time, it helps pay for the infrastructure as an incentive for the development to actually occur. That's the idea. And again, it's only on projects that a local planning commission, select board would approve.
That's one thing that we're seeing with development, here in Bristol. One of the limiting things is utilities, infrastructure, with not having a town wastewater system, that
Right.
limits density that's possible because you need to have on-site wastewater.
Correct. So I know I've been talking to the Starksboro folks about that, and they don't have they have a village water system, which is cool, but they don't have wastewater. And so I've been talking about them. If you're thinking of trying to get more housing in your village area, for example, and like you say, there's some real limitations on what you can do if you have to rely on an individual septic system, right? So this in appropriate projects, you know, and that you folks want to do, it would help to fund, you know, some of that infrastructure, and in the process, you know, incentivize the housing development.
So from a state level, what would be helpful is to keep the funds and grants rolling for the municipalities for wastewater and water infrastructure to be able
Okay.
to allow for more development, because I know there's some municipalities are getting up against capacity in their systems.
Right.
You know, does not have a complete system, just the downtown area, things like
Yeah.
that. And if you want to see higher density, that's kind of the base for able to provide that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Um, you know, it takes money, right?
Yeah.
To do that kind of stuff, you know, to expand your capacity, that kind of thing. And that usually rolls through the appropriations committee. So yeah, I think that's something to keep an eye on. Of course, it's going to be a hell of a budget year with all the federal cuts and stuff. It's going to be a little wild, you know, but definitely, you know, I think housing is it's right up there in terms of priorities. So that's something I'll be watching.
Anybody have anything else they'd like to add into this conversation?
I guess I wanted to get your thoughts on the housing targets there, or that came out of the Vermont Housing Needs Assessment.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Um,
that those struck me. They were really interesting. I mean, you got the target, right? That's I think they're underestimating that, but whatever. What struck me, uh, you know, because so much the four towns that I represent, pretty rural. I mean, Bristol's got the largest village, but even Bristol, you know, they got a lot of land outside the village. And those housing targets, the thing that struck me was, you know, they were counting on X% of the housing target to be met by development in, say, the village or, you know, the 1B, that kind of thing, which is fine. But then they also, I don't know the number for Bristol, but I know the number for Starksboro. It was like they were relying on, say, 60% of the new units to be in the villages, but 40% outside the villages. So I'm also focused. I don't think state legislators are focusing enough on, hey, if you need 40% of to meet your target, you need 40% of your housing outside the village. You might need to help those people too. So I found that data is very interesting.
Me as well. It's very.
Bill,
I'm
did you-
just amazed that I can get on Zoom with you guys with 2 bars.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. 2 good bars.
I guess.
Where are you in Utah?
Well, actually, we're just over the border, Fred, in Colorado, a place called Paradox, but it's really near to the Arches National Park and Canyonlands, and then there are trails all over here. And we just took a trip, hike up a canyon. It's just wonderful. It's amazing country.
I have a son that lives there, has a family there, and we go quite often. And
Oh,
we've been
cool.
places, some of them multiple times, and it is beautiful, and there is an awful lot to do.
There, yeah. Where do they live, Fred?
He lives up in the Salt Lake area.
Oh, okay.
Where most Utah people live.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the area that I'm in is pretty sparse.
Yeah, and that's great. That's great.
Ellen or Bill, do you have anything else that you wanted to throw into this conversation?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, listen, I really appreciate this, folks.
Oh wait, Bill.
Keep me on your radar screen if you have any questions, or if you need any help, you know, just give me a buzz, drop me a line.
Definitely. We might have one more comment from.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Herb, it's Bill Sayer.
Hey, Bill, good to see you. Good to hear you.
Yes. A couple of comments on what was said previously. As you know, Herb, we're not going to reduce property taxes unless we reduce the rate of growth and spending, and you alluded to that. The problem isn't with how much our teachers are paid, because they're about average, which is about where our per capita income is for the state as a whole, for all the families and people. The problem is the very low ratio of students per teacher. That's what makes our costs about 70% over the national average.
Yeah.
On a per student basis. And until we can get closer to the national average, our property taxes are going to be real high. The target for Bristol is totally unrealistic. We're not going to come close to hitting that. The last point I'd make is is that part of the cost of owning a home is the cost of energy.
Right.
And some of the ideas that passed the legislature, such as the clean heat standard, which establishes a very Byzantine way of raising the cost of fuel oil, is one. And then the idea that we would mandate a percentage of our vehicles have to be electric is going to be costly to families, part of their cost of living. And of course, the idea that most anybody could sue the Secretary of Natural Resources if we don't hit emission targets,
Right.
is going to be very costly. So I suppose my hope would be that you would work on getting those last two items repealed and work on ways to reduce our ratio of teachers to students, or increase the ratio of students to teachers. There's many ways it can be done. I know some of them are contentious, and you're in the middle of that, but
Yeah.
the end result has to be a higher student-teacher ratio, or we're not going to get our property taxes under control.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, Bill. You know, I talked to different people around the state, and there's a real wide variation, Bill, of what the cost per pupil is in different areas and different supervisory unions, supervisory districts, that kind of thing. One superintendent said, Herb, since COVID, statewide, we've increased the number of teachers by 700. And some of this, that's really, I totally understand. Kids are having such a hard time today, but that's a big number. There are also, I think, Bill, you didn't kind of mention this. I think there are a lot of mandated programs and expenses in there. Some of them might be great, but it certainly is worth a review to see how much they're costing and how much they're really benefiting. The right to sue. I was an assistant attorney general for years, Bill. You knew me at Bishka and stuff like that. That's the last thing I'd want is to have to defend that kind of a lawsuit. Jeez and crow. I don't know. I'm partial to a lot of things, but that's not one of them. So I hear, and energy costs, I think, is something that the legislature should look at. Energy costs are a big part of the cost of living. And I'm not saying that some of this stuff isn't worthwhile, but it really is time, I think, to take a look at the individual pieces and say, well, how much is it costing to do this? And is there maybe, Bill, is there some better way to do it? That's all. So I hear you. And I'm not on those committees, unfortunately, Bill, but yeah, I'll be paying attention to that
But-
stuff.
But you have a vote, Herb.
What's that?
You have a vote when it comes to the floor.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But committees are where it's at. I'm on the Commerce Committee. It's a good committee. I enjoy
Yep.
my work there.
Well, set a good example there, Herb.
There we go. There we go. I'll try, Bill.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your time, Herb.
Okay, great. Take care, people. And again, get in touch if you know have something more to talk to me about.
Thank you, Herb.
very much.
Okay.
Right. So we will move on then to administrative matters. And we are going to do minutes for September 16th. Anybody
I'll
have?
make a motion, we approve them.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right, any discussion, anybody have any changes or notes on that?
I didn't see.
Okay, hearing none. Minutes will be approved as they are. Up next is zoning report.
Yeah. It's a crazy one. Real crazy. 3 permits in the past month.
Okay,
Um,
manageable.
yes.
Accessory dwelling units?
No. No.
That's
An accessory deck, boundary line adjustment. This boundary line adjustment actually I approved back in October of last year, but they did not record the Mylar within the 180 days,
Mhm.
which makes it null and void. So
New permit.
new permit.
Got it.
so that happens. A surveyor goes out and finds a difference or something, or
No, so once if a boundary line adjustment, if it's approved by me or a subdivision approved by the DRB, they have 180 days from the date of approval to record the Mylar
They,
of,
I got it. They
yeah.
just wanted to
Like
change
final
it for their own
submission.
purpose. This something, not like something was wrong. They just wanted to change.
No, they just didn't get it recorded within the 180
The-
days.
The first time, the original motivation. I know I'm being stupid here, but the landowner wanted to change, or the landowner discovered a mistake in the boundary of some sort.
They wanted to change.
Just wanted to change.
Yeah, it was 5 or so acres going from Francis and Diane Heffernan to their neighbor John Flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's.
I don't know why.
Son-in-law.
Huh?
That's his son-in-law.
See, I don't know the family history that well, but I don't know. All they said is they
One of the
want to.
Advantages of being around the.
Yeah, they said they want to give 5 acres to 5 acres, and I said okay. Yeah, a lot of another yeah, sheds, decks, nothing crazy. Still in the process of trying to get new applications out.
Are these the only open application, are these just the new applications, they're still open permits?
There are a couple open permits right now. I have a pending permit situation down on Notch Road. That's pending. The applicant needs a variance. But I've requested materials from him, additional materials that would help provide to the DRB. I've requested a design sketch to know what he's building. A lot of times when people submit applications, they just give me a piece of paper with a square on it and say, this is what I'm gonna build. And while, yes, it's gonna be a square in the footprint, part of the regulations do stipulate that you submit information that depicts the size, shape, and design of what you're building. And I've requested that information, haven't heard back from him, so that's just kind of been pending. There are a couple, I just got one today for a tire shed down, literally 2 houses down. Trying to think if there's any other pending. Just a couple like minor ones. Nothing big. Single family house just came in today. DRB has there's a conditional use for development in the floodplain. That little cabin on Lower Notch that's like just after the bridge. The previous owner built a outdoor shower, thinking that it was under the exemption size of 64 square feet. But that exemption is only if you're not within the flood hazard zone or the downtown design district. And being in the flood hazard zone, I am not taking any risks with our national flood insurance for the entire town by missing permitting for something.
Okay.
So and then 2 subdivisions on the DRB docket for now. But
Yeah. Our next item is miscellaneous correspondence.
Yes.
Letter of support for Hogback Brewing, so it looks like this is tied to some funding.
yes, so this is the owner of Hogback Mountain Brewing. They're applying for a regional economic development grant to cover the cost of much needed repairs for their roof. The planning commission is one of the groups that can provide a letter of support. This I think falls well within the planning commission's role. The Hogback Brewing is a central business in our community that we would want to continue.
Sort of rolling my eyes on this.
I mean, it's a business in our community, right?
It is a business in our community. I
Not-
got that from
maybe
us.
not
Central
central,
business,
sorry,
maybe a
yes.
Bar, a tap room, I mean, anyway.
I mean, it's pardon my French, it's not central, but it is a business in our community that.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like it's our job, but I could be wrong.
I mean, it's not the planning commission's job, but we do support the growth in businesses in our community.
Gee, I was a businessman and I feel like I needed to fix my own roof and save my money and et cetera, right? While I'm making the money, so I can keep my maintenance going.
So
I don't get this really, but
It-
maybe I'm old.
I mean,
know I'm old.
I don't know, if there's a program they can take advantage of and we can. I look at it as if we can help keep a business going, it's already in Bristol, that's a good thing. There have been
I have nothing against
businesses
it,
that
I'm
have
fine.
moved. And as long as everything is above board with their zoning and that everything meets what it should be, that I don't see any issue with that.
I mean, I see no issue with applying, I just never thought of the planning commission being in that position. There's a lot of businesses in town that probably need new roofs and they, say, but whatever, that's good, I mean. I mean, we helped out a lot of businesses back in the day in Bristol when there was failing systems and this and that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the planning commission did though, but the government did.
Right, and so my understanding is they're just looking for recommendations that basically say. Everything's meets the town plan and everything, it's not an unwanted business or something that
That's
doesn't match
Yeah.
with anything.
just to give, okay, I get that.
Yeah, a letter-
That was my understanding when I read through it.
yeah, and again, I apologize for using central, but
I'm sorry.
it was poor wording on my part, but I think our businesses, what I meant by that, our existing businesses in Bristol are important to the character of our community.
It's true, and it's not the easiest place to make a lot of money, so. There you go.
That's what I mean by central, is our existing businesses, we want them to stay here. We want jobs. We don't.
Let's get start thinking about making a mark.
You could
Just
apply
gotta
for
find the programs.
Yeah. If you can find, there's so many grants out there that are available to anyone, and the letter of support is from select board, city councils, planning commissions. It's from anyone in the community who can say, we support this.
And the brewing company owns the property. They're not renters of the property. That's that property has had so many iterations over the years, many different owners. And
Good point.
and so it's just a technical point.
Well, we can check
Would
right
the
now.
owner be applying for the grant, even though it's the brewery that he's housing or she's housing? And I don't know what the,
They own it. Homestead Hops Brewing Company. Or
Mhm.
some, yeah. A brewing company owns it. This is just like a 2-second looking at it. I can look
And
into
it may-
further.
and
I
it may
think
very
it,
well
I
be.
think it is.
Yeah.
they very well be.
I may be wrong, I think it is, I think they bought it all. Cause I remember them coming to the planning commission for. Conditional use review, one that changed hands. When they bought it.
I would just confirm that, that'd be.
Yeah.
I have no problem with saying they're operating well as far as
Good citizens.
regs that we're responsible for.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on that? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move into. Public comment again, is there any public comment at this time? Okay. Hearing none,
I haven't.
any other
Right on time.
I thought we'd be here till 11.
we may be if there's no other motions. at
I
this point.
definitely could have made sure we were here till 11. So
Does anybody wanna make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to.
Okay. Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
I.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,